we have $10,000 for this, you know.
We could build a $10,000 monument.
Exactly, you know, so we could approach it from that standpoint as opposed to just looking at a picture and saying, build it this way. You know, that's the other way to approach it, is say, build it this way and then find out the price. So that's part of our decision as well. I think one thing about the granite, that takes into, then your structure, you're considering part of your structure, like he had said, with the footings, you know, obviously putting granite on, plaques on, I would imagine are heavier than maybe a bronze type of a plaque. I know down at Abington High School, they have their stadium, their walls of their stadium complex are brick, but they had similar things where they have plaques and they're bronze plaques with different memorials on each. So I think, you know, what's our starting point? We've got to decide, is our starting point how much money we have to put into this donated, or what we envision it to look like?
Or do we start with the design? Start with the design and say that's our goal. I believe they're starting in April. I don't know the date. They're going to start work, and I don't know what comes first. But he said, you know, it needs to be decided as soon as possible so that we don't start something and then have to change in the middle because now we say, oh well, now we want it, you know, a certain way. So I guess I don't know if you can work on that, Bruce.
No, I'll be glad. I did not know anything you're saying here.
I didn't know it either until.
Who would be the point of contact for that? Should I talk to Mike Stafford or Barry?
No, I would say Mike Stafford or maybe Jeff. Well,
Okay.
The only other point that I'm going to raise, in looking at the two views, we had an outside view of the stadium with plaques on it, and then the inside with plaques on it. My understanding that the outside would be for some of the bigger donors of what's going on.
This was going to be inside where the flag is.
Right, I understand that, but should the cost of that wall then be shared by everybody, rather than just
Yeah, I
with the...
understand what you're saying.
yeah, no, but we haven't even, you know, we
Final
have
design's
a
not
place
here.
where we have no green and white donors. We have no decision yet on where those people are going to be. And, you know, I had asked, again, Mike, if he could come up with something, you know, like if it's going to be on by the concession stand, or if it is going to be out there, or if that's going to be, you know, I guess the board has to decide what's going to be out there.
Yeah, those plaques, like what he showed in the drawing, haven't been decided on. He basically, I think, when he did this concept drawing, if you want to call it that, you know, put that in there. But I understand what you're saying. You know, if it's a dual use.
Yeah. The other thing is I think for all the donors, the Green and White Club, because that's really where, I mean, the pavers, the people who donate to the pavers, they have their spot. The sponsors have a spot on whatever they are sponsoring, whatever building or piece of equipment they're sponsoring. And the advertisers have a spot. So it's the Green and White Club that needs a section that we have to decide on. And I think it would be best if it was for that it's something that can be changed. You know, if we have, and he told me that it has to be decided the building has like it's an uneven brick.
It's like a block.
An uneven block, and if we wanted to mount something on it, it would be difficult. And you know, if our goal is to raise money over 10 years, we need something that you can change and say, well, now we've added somebody and so have some sort of frame. And so we have to know where that's going to be.
Where this is permanent. I mean,
Right.
it's named.
Right, that's going to be permanent, and
Hopefully, I mean,
Hopefully no
Right.
addition.
hopefully there'll be no additions,
Yeah.
but it should be designed if that should happen, that you don't have to go to something totally new.
right.
Just for your consideration, I will show you this one picture,
Okay.
and this is what could be done for approximately $20,000.
My thoughts would be for, you know, the board members, that I think we'd be better off setting something with a price. That way when we go out to look for people to sponsor it, that they know that our goal for this is to raise X, whether X is 12, 15, or 20. I think it'd be better because that way, they can look at a lot of places for people that family who are working may have matching grants at their company. There are matching grants, that are elected leaders, at the national level, since this is, we could talk to Senator Casey, Senator Toomey, we could look at that, our Congress people that are around here, because they might be able to find something to help out as well. But I would say that we ought to go for a pricing and then just see what comes up with that. So that's, when I talk with Mike, Mike and Jeff, if that was okay with that, I mean, look at that.
I think that.
That picture there, that is a design done by this Christensen Monuments.
That's what I was going to ask you, was it from down in,
Montgomeryville, and this is the proposed design for Hackberry Horse.
And you said this was how much money?
Around $20,000.
Around 20,000.
but it's
That
like
is-
it looks freestanding,
And
is
that's,
it?
yes, and that's about, I think about 10 feet long.
Okay.
So it's a sizable plaque.
So it would be thicker granite probably than what would be,
There again, I guess you get what you pay for there in
Yeah,
granite
yeah.
too. I mean, if you can get a granite countertop this thick, you can get a granite plaque that thick. You can also get them this thick for a tombstone. So, no, and I am available. I'm retired. I'm available during the day if you need me to meet along with any of your people, meeting with the engineer. Unfortunately, that's the only copy I have of that. A picture of the cell phone will work. Let's put it this way, I'll be available in the mornings, actually starting Monday, weather permitting. I'm a baseball umpire, so almost every afternoon I'm umpiring at some school somewhere in the Bucksmont, yeah. It dates me, doesn't it? In the suburban one area, where I'm also doing games in the Pac-10, which is over to a Pottstown area. So,
I agree. I think, starting with the price as opposed to just saying, build us this, and then we're surprised with the price, is the way to approach it.
What I think would be good is to say, I mean, he did a drawing, he created a drawing and say, okay, well, what would that drawing cost? And if we say, okay, well, that's too much money, then, okay, well, it needs to be smaller.
It definitely seems like the concept drawing that Mike came up with 3 plaques is probably too much. Probably too much realistic, too much space for 13 names. So whatever he had in mind, it would be scaled down from that, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, because at one time, I think we had discussed, Mr. Snyder, you may not have been here, it may have been previous when we were just brought in information initially. Not sure if it was just going to be the 13 names, or if it was going to include any Pennridge students who had served.
if you get Pennridge students that served, I think we need a wall half the size of.
No, not just served. I mean served and had lost their lives in service.
Right,
So are these 13?
Are they just from the Vietnam War?
Vietnam War are 10 of them, which are on the plaque down the hall here.
Okay,
There's 2 from Iraq.
so they are included?
Yeah, they are included. I mean, we're going to include everybody from there on. And there's one name, like I said, whether the family by choice did
Whatever
not want
reason.
it, which I can make contact with that family, there's no problem there. And, or there was just one that was overlooked. He was not killed in battle, he was a test pilot. He died in the plane crash. But it's still, he gave his life for his country.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So do we want to
So,
talk to Mike?
will you talk to Mike?
I am going to set up a meeting with Mike and Jeff and talk with this. I'll show them the picture, and I'll have them come back with some sort of, Mike, some sort of concept drawing. It might be exactly what you're looking at, and then also look at an estimated price. And obviously, their part is going to be they're going to have to, build the footer, build the foundation. Even if we take something like that, it still has to have something solid.
I agree.
So
It's just like It's just like it's done in
Then we
the,
won't have a dual purpose wall, which is what it's like with design.
Yeah.
So I'll talk about the green and white memorial as well, so I'll talk
Right.
about that.
But it could be if you wanted a freestanding one, then it could be seen from both sides. Is that one that you showed us, is it engraved on both sides? or
no,
just
it
one
would
side?
not be
It's
engraved
just
on
one
both
side.
sides.
But still, I mean, you would be able to see it.
Yeah.
I guess it would just have whatever the fencing, he said if we didn't build that wall, it would just be the fencing that's around. But then you could see the memorial, at least, as, you know, coming in as well.
The thing that bothers me about the bronze plaques, they're disappearing. Unfortunately, there are people stealing them. They're stealing the grave markers that are bronze for the medal. And, you know, it's out here at night. I don't know how many security cameras, but it's out there. It's a dark field at night. I mean, come in, climb over the fence, come down there, a couple bolts off, and you've got yourself a big chunk of bronze. That's what bothers me, as much as I love to see it in bronze. It's a little harder to walk away with a piece of granite.
If they're gonna take it, they gotta work for it.
Yeah. And like I say, I'm available during, especially in the mornings, and Joe's got contact numbers for me. Anything else I can help you with?
That's it, thank you very much.
Very good, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
What is your name, sir?
John Snyder.
John Snyder, thank you.
All right, Jeff can't be here tonight. He's, like I said, with the other entourage supporting our boys basketball team tonight. Some of you probably wish you were there too, but thank you for being here. Right now, he believes on the Build It for Bud campaign that he has probably 80% of the way, because he, the goal is to get to, once he has commitments for 100%, then we will do a sponsorship arrangement with the Hollenbach family, just like we did for the other places that, that have sponsorship, so that we can move forward with that. So he's getting there, he's working on that, and rolling into the next one. Now that we have the board to approve the weight room, he has one of his assistant coaches that has a contact with someone who actually, will design a layout for the weight room and the pieces of equipment that are going to be there. So the next step is once he has them all done, then we're going to start work on getting a sponsor for each one of those pieces of equipment. So it'd be better, for us to, we'll bid it all out at once, let's make sure the specs are the way we need to have them, if we're looking at comparable. So he is working on that now. I don't think he has the design back, but he has the dimensions of the room, and from there they'll work on to make sure that it covers all the equipment. And we're going to have all the teams help out with that, because one of the goals is that if the football players, or the soccer team would go up and be in that weight room, it frees it up for everybody else. So everybody has a vested interest in helping getting the weight equipment in that room, because it frees it up for even kids that aren't even athletes, so they can stay after school and use that room. So we're going to try to get everybody involved with trying to find whatever number of piece of equipment. We'll just, this piece of equipment, estimated price, the final price will be based on the bid. We'll bid it all out at once, and then they will do that. We'll just get commitments for that. And I think that's easier, because people will be glad to look at, businesses, this is mine, I have my name on that. And they don't have to have a connection to Bud Hollenbach. It's basically, something that when they go in and work out, someone's going to see their name. So it's a good business decision for a lot of people. So that's the status of that. I hope at the next meeting to bring back at least a tentative design, even though someone may look at it somewhere else. But we'll look at it that way, and then just say X number of the bikes, the lifts, the weights, all that kind of stuff there. And then, but he'll be able to be here for the next meeting.
Yeah, I was just wondering if it's going to be designed for the football team, because I think they have a different weightlifting philosophy or workout than other teams would. So I'm just wondering if it's going to be designed for all teams.
No, yeah, you can just handle, use different weights, and you're not gonna
Right, but they're more
press
into
300 pounds if you're
weights.
They do both. They do everything.
Yeah.
Just like the weight room is now,
Right.
and, it's multi-sport.
It's multi-sport, and the things they may have, some the bigger pieces of equipment for the heavier weights, for the lifts, the deadlifts. But the thing is, most teams, for all athletes, are going with core. They're working on core, so you see a lot of that. So that's applicable to any athlete, cheerleader, whoever's out
Because
there.
I think a lot more athletics, a lot of the other athletic teams are going to, like you're saying, with free weights. But, I think you see that more, and, maybe by doing that too, it opens it up for that opportunity for those other sports as
Correct.
well, not to be just limited to a machine.
Yeah.
You know, yeah,
Yep.
yeah, but I don't think it has to be specific to football at all.
But you'll see though, because obviously, you know, we would bid this, it's gonna be a big enough dollar amount that, you know, that it's gonna have to go through, the, you know, the whole process of going out to bid, making sure it has the specs right. But you'll see all that before it goes out there and we'll start working on getting people. But I don't think that's gonna be a high hill. Just like I don't think getting the money for the reward once we set it up. Because there are organizations that are vested in trying to treat our killed in action soldiers, especially in our community, the way they're supposed to be treated. So just honor them.
Yeah, I mean, the only distinction in the weight room would be the number of free weights versus machines, because a lot of athletes prefer the free weights that it requires the balance as well as the.
It's both.
Yeah, and so I think as long as we have a good balance between machines and free weights, you'll take care of anybody that wants to work out.
And then we're on to outreach to board members and district employees. Real quick, I'll just touch on booster clubs. I spoke with someone from the lacrosse booster club and trying to get, the word out to the different clubs to get them involved in this. And I'm going to be in touch with them in regard to that because my conversation with that person was just that, they realize that it's a multi-sport facility up here, so it'll help all the sports clubs to get this project finished. So contacting booster clubs is still a work in progress because some of the contact names they turn over quickly. So some of the contact names I have are older ones, so I'm still working on that. And then Christine.
Yeah, this was just an idea. So I wanted to talk about it here and see what people thought. If we would, ask all the board members and see if we could get everybody to support, in some way support the stadium and then also have an outreach to district employees. I originally was just thinking administration, but I don't know if people thought we could reach out to all the employees. So just wanted people's opinions on that.
I think it's a great idea. I know that the Teachers Association has already asked what opportunities they have. So there, I sent out the brochure that had all the different sponsorship activities. Other things that people could, go in as a school, for a faculty group. They could look at a piece of equipment. I mean, we have more things for them that may be within their price range, to help out with the school district. So I think it's a great idea. Probably should design some sort of email to send out to everybody. So Joe would be glad to work with Christine on that.
My wife and I support some of these activities. I'm not sure what level.
Yeah, well, I think it would be good if we could get every. Yeah, no, I'm in the same, I think it would be nice, if we could get everybody on board to contribute in whatever way that they're able to.
And then Joe, the status, we asked for, Christine had requested a budget for the fundraising committee activities.
The only thing that we spent so far is.
Can't hear you.
Like,
I'm not used to this drill. The only thing that we spent so far is $88 to print those initial flyers that were distributed at the first couple football games. So we have not spent any money beyond that.
Right, and that I had asked about if we wanted to do a mailing, to local businesses for advertising, and then also trying the outreach to alumni, which we haven't yet tapped. And so, there's a lot of alumni, so hopefully we can do that through email. So two things. So doing a mailing to businesses, we could just target businesses for advertising. I was also thinking that we could, just like before we had created a list of businesses to ask for sponsors, maybe some of the people or businesses that get business from the school district, that they need to be asked to be sponsors. So I don't know if we want to do, ask more people to be sponsors, create a list for that, and then do a mailing for advertising to ask people to advertise. and then use some of the budget for that.
I think at this point, our best opportunity is the signs. You know, the advertising.
To reach out.
Yeah, I think that's where we have the best opportunity.
Yeah, so.
I think our sponsorships will be one-on-one. That's how we'll get those. But I think the advertising is going to require some sort of a marketing campaign.
Okay, so I guess we need to decide, I believe the board approved a $500 budget. That, or I guess the idea is decide, come up with a list of businesses in the area and then decide then, okay, then just the cost of the printing and the stamps to mail it, so.
Joe had shared with me that he can get a list of the businesses through one of the chambers that you're affiliated with. And there are groups, I know that Jeff Hollenbach, I think Upper Bucks Orthopedics, some of the other groups like that, that we're waiting for something, for opportunities. So I don't know whether they'll help out with weight stuff or the Green and White Club. But there are places, and some of those we're just going to start listing the names and then have a personal contact with them. Even if we send out a letter, we'll do a follow-up in person so they hear from a voice. Dave had contacted Thompson Group.
Guess it's time for another contact.
I did a follow-up for them to make sure they had all that information. So right now it's real. And then some of the contacts we made were, if the board does this or if this is approved. So right now we know exactly what was not approved, and so we can move forward with that. One other group we have, I know that Gina DeBona at the high school is working with the class group, to start planting the seed that, one of the gifts that they can give is to sponsor a bleacher, so they can start with bleachers. And they're $4,000, that's something that's a class gift. It actually is just, it's money because the bleachers are already up there. So she's working with them. She also has the students that are involved with the various committees. They are in the process, not as fast as I would like, of going through the yearbooks and getting class officers, phone numbers and emails, so that they can also reach out. So if it's your 25th, reunion, do you want to do something for the school with the group of people that are there, and everybody kicks in $10, maybe they can sponsor a bleacher as well. So they are getting that research, and hopefully that our student rep, who is not here tonight, can bring that information back, because I asked them, that's where it ought to come from. They're doing the work on that, so they could bring that back to us.
What about was it Harris Connect?
They have not reached out to do their new directory yet. So any data we would get from them would be several years old.
So if we got emails, because I was going to say, like, as far as reaching out to alumni, if we try through email, you could be using a lot of that.
Could
You don't know if you're sending emails, because like Dr. Bromar just said, now that we know that it's a definite, to reach out to alumni is no longer if this happens, I think to make that effort. But how, Harris Connect, what do they usually contact us for?
They do a printed and online alumni directory every 5 years.
Okay,
And this fall was the year they were up for 5 years.
and they haven't
They have not reached
contacted?
out to me yet, so I should probably get on to them and find out what their plans are.
Yeah,
But I do have an email list from them the last time, and it would still have some validity,
yeah.
and it doesn't cost us anything to send it out. So
No, and I think, that's a good starting point in regard to alumni, and, again, just put a letter together saying this is what's happening, things are changing here since you left, and we're reaching out, for some support. So, like
Yeah,
you
I think
said,
it's
an
worth it.
email, there's no mailing
No.
expenses there, so.
I agree, because there are alumni, and there are alumni with debt, which would be your five-year ago, the people who just graduated from college, and then there are alumni with some actually expendable funds, which would be those 10 years and greater, because they are probably out an ability to contribute, either as a class or as an individual. So we may be able to get some of those anyway. Our recent graduates are not going to have, they're not going to have expendable funds at this point.
Anybody have anything else? I just want to real quick just make a note or comment on the, in regard to the whole, the veteran memorial. I don't know if we realize, anybody realize I was putting my schedule in my calendar. The first home game this year is on 9/11. So, I think, to have something like that would really be, have it done and ready there for that being the first home game and such a significant date would be nice too. So I just wanted to note that. Any questions or comments from the public? Mr. Linden?
Good evening. Robert Linden, West Bronco. I have a question about I guess maybe it's more like a comment about the memorial. From my listening to you, it sounds like you don't have any plan or clue what you're going to do. And I remember Mike Spadafora was doing a concept for that. It seems to me that he could give you more detail. He could give you approximate dimensions and cost. Then I heard Mrs. Yardley say the construction was going to start in April. And here it is, just about the middle of March. You don't have a plan. You don't even know what size that is. That drawing was on 8.5 by 11. I assume it's bigger than that. So I think you ought to write something down on paper and decide amongst yourself real quick as to what you're going to do, rather than just discuss it and then forget about it until the next meeting. This is what I'm used to. I'm used to seeing a plan with a timetable. I think Mr. Thompson knows what I'm talking about. And I'd like to see that from you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Can I address his concerns?
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I can address his concerns?
Yeah.
I don't want to hear his answer. I want to hear your answer. I don't want to hear anything. He's not a member of the committee, and he's not a member of the school board.
Okay, Mr. Linden, thank you. But Mr. Snyder, you're by all means welcome to make comments. It is public comment or questions, so
Okay.
you
Don't
can
address it
to us.
Okay, I'll address it to you. To answer this, this all came about in January. The January 28th meeting was the first we even had a concept idea of what it's going to look like. And at this point in time, it's being nailed down. I understand. I've been involved in local government. Local government doesn't, you don't do it today and it's going to happen tomorrow. It's a time-consuming thing. And the bottom line is to do it, if we're going to do it right. It may be delayed a little bit, but definitely, like you said, one of you said up there, 9/11 is the first home game. That would be ideal. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move on to the activities committee.
All right, so we're going from one meeting to another. We will just start with our agenda, and I'll take comments at the end. So the first item on the agenda is the overnight trip request for the cheerleaders. So they have two. So I believe Lindsay Rapp is at the basketball game, so Dr. Brevard is going to share the information.
I can just, the issue is obviously these are two cheerleading events that they have participated in the past. Lindsay does a great job of putting everything in the format that the board likes, so you have, who's there, the event, the time, with the precedent, all those sorts of things. So everything is pretty clear in this, and I told her, feel free to take her, the girls to support our team, and I'll do my very best, but she does a nice job. If there are any questions above and beyond this, I'll be glad to try to get answers and shoot it back to you, but they've gone to these before, they've been very successful, and we're very proud of our accomplishments of our cheerleaders.
I guess that was just what she had information about the trip to the Nationals and how they placed, but I guess, maybe at the next meeting we could hear from her about how the trip went, overall.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, she would have been here tonight if she had, been out there, and so I'll be glad to have her come to the next meeting and give a report back. That's fine. She'd love to do that as a promo.
Well, yeah, well, yeah, that would be great, and then, she could bring some students as well, and we can hear from them. So are these time sensitive? Do we need to approve these on the March meeting? When
The
is our
issue with
next
both of them
meeting
is,
in May?
the issue is, it's not so much time sensitive to approve the trip, it's time sensitive for them to start raising funds. That's the issue with the bigger trips.
Big ones.
Yeah, correct. So, but she can still, I would still be glad to have her come here and, if there are concerns, but I think, they try to go get information as early as possible so the parents know this is something we're going on, we need to raise these funds to help support our girls with the process. So that's the only thing that's really, the time sensitive is giving them enough time. In the past, you've approved, like I know we approved the band trip, and then in the end, they decided not to go, but that's on them. The board, says you can go, follow the conditions we have, and, the lead time to be able to raise funds was given to them, and then they chose not to go. So that's really the only issue with that as far as time sensitivity.
I just had a question. The Florida one for next February, it looks as if it's structured very similar, if not exact to this year's, as far as days missed and things like that. So, okay.
Did they go to the camp this past year? I read this a couple days ago, and I don't remember if it said that they went to the camp. I know they went to Florida.
She explained to me that both of these, they have done in the past, so that neither of these is new. So I will go ahead and I'll just double check that, but I asked her anything new, to be presented. She'll know we've done both of these in the past, so they're not new. They're established trips for them.
Okay. So, does anybody have any questions? Any other questions? So we want to put it on the March agenda for approval, and then just have her come to the activities when's our next meeting in May?
Yeah, have her talk, 'cause I think that's still before us, so she'd be glad to do that. So I'll have her attend, and she wants to bring some cheerleaders that have been to the camps, that would be good too.
Okay. And I know we revised the agenda, I'm not sure what was.
What is off is the review of not off, postponed, the high school football game tickets, because I need both Ms. DeBona and Dave Babb here, and they're both at that game, so we'll just postpone. It can still be done, it needs to be done. Any decision, change or no change, as long as we get it done before the start of next school year, so they can get the prices up, May is still fine. And if we need to, in the past, we've had a second meeting in June if there's still unresolved issues to try to get these things done. So we have plenty of time.
Okay. All right, so we'll talk about that at our next meeting. And then the last item on the agenda is the adult evening school proposal, because the Upper Bucks Technical School is no longer going to run the adult evening school. So Joe has a proposal. Okay.
I just think the adult evening school is a valuable resource. I think it's something that the community appreciates, and I think it's something that with proper organization and administration can be, at worst, a break-even proposition for the school district. So I put together some ideas. Again, I think the ingredients of a successful evening school program are a wide breadth of courses, qualified instructors, reasonable costs, and accessible facilities, all of which I think are available to us as a district. But I think the key is marketing the program to the right people at the right time. And I think that's what I can bring to the table. And so I would like to have the district's blessing to try to revive the adult evening school program starting for the fall of 2015.
So Joe, you just basically, in essence, what the tech school was doing up there, you want to take back and do here, which I believe we did at one point?
We did. We gave up the evening school about 3 or 4 years ago, I believe it was, complete administration to the tech school. I looked at their class offerings. The most recent data I have was from 2013. They offered 52 classes that encompassed 276 class nights. My goal for the first year would be 200 course nights, which it averages out to 5 classes a night, 4 nights a week for 10 weeks. And I think with an average revenue, again, looking at the prices that were paid in the past for things like ballroom dancing and advanced basketball, water walking, an average of $70 per course per night would generate $14,000. And one of the differences that I would propose is compensating the instructors with a percentage of the tuition rather than an hourly rate, which is, I believe, is the way they used to be paid. So this guarantees that we can't possibly lose money.
So it's based on enrollment.
It's based on enrollment. If the instructor isn't satisfied with enough people, they don't have to teach the course. Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
When you advertise it, then we could advertise that so many, that as a requirement that there needs to be a minimum sign up for
And
the
that
class.
could be at the discretion of the instructor. If
Yeah.
they're willing to teach 3 people,
Mhm.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Because they know they're going to get a
Their fees
percentage
will be
of
lower.
revenue.
Okay. Your class proposals, is it similar to what was offered in the past?
I would look into it. There's some of these that seem kind of dated. I don't know, Intro to Microsoft Word 7. I don't know if that's still a valid. That's Intro to Microsoft Outlook. Of course, we know that some of the more popular ones were the basketball, the volleyball, which I'm sure they'll be popular again. But I think there's an opportunity maybe to engage our local business community a little more than they've been, and being able to tap into their talents to teach the things that they do on a regular basis that would be of interest to our residents. So one of the things I would do is reach out to some of the business owners in the community to find out what talents they have that would translate into a course. If you notice, a number of the courses are offered off-site. So for example, there were some karate and kickboxing classes offered at Maximum Impact Karate. So it was offered through the adult evening school, but off our site. I think there's maybe some opportunities for some more things there. So trying to tap into what the community wants and finding people that can teach those courses, I think that's something that I could do.
Do you have enrollment numbers from this past
That I
year?
don't have, no.
Okay, I'd be curious if, of all the things that were offered, if they all ran,
Right.
you know, it seems like the sports seem to have a big following because you can sign up for that, you know, session after session after
Right.
session. There are people who play for years.
That's their recreational opportunity.
Right, and that's what they do, but where, you know, if you're doing cake decorating, you're gonna do that once and then,
Possibly,
and,
right.
and then you're gonna be finished with it. You're not gonna do the same class again. So I guess I would wanna know what, of all the course offerings they had, what was the enrollment and, you know, how many classes actually ran?
Right, and my proposal would be for many fewer classes than they offered in the past, and classes that I'm sure will
More
attract
popular.
students. Right.
Right. Focus on the quality over the quantity.
Right.
Yeah.
The model that Joe is proposing is a pretty good business model, that, you know, if you take in $100, 40% basically pays the instructor, 40% goes for our, you know, the marketing, advertising stuff that, you know, that Joe would be doing. Also Joe, you know, would be overseeing and supervising the program. And then the other 20 is basically our cost, which I think the district or the VOTEC absorbs to make sure we market the program, all the advertising. But, you know, I think that it's still at worst to break even at this point, because we don't need to use all that money all the time. And as the program grows, then there's some revenues for us, you know, that actually come back. It's, you know, actually a good thing to look at a model like that.
And so you're saying 40% would go to the instructor, and then you're saying 40% would go
To
you as the-
administration, and then
You and
20%
whoever else
for
would
advertising.
administer
Right.
the program.
If Joe does it all goes to that person that's doing it, so that's their money. But we still have the 20% that covers our advertising, whatever we need to do, which in the past, the district paid for all that, which is why it was a money loser, which is why it got shifted over to the VOTEC. So I think that this model, it's either gonna fly, you know, or it's not. But if it flies, we don't lose money, and that's been the concern, because you really shouldn't be spending taxpayer dollars on something that's not your primary mission. But this can be accomplished if we're smart about it.
I do think I do think the expenses of marketing could be fairly minimal with the various channels that are available to us, especially online.
Well, right, and you might even find that it's just, you know, the sports are the ones that people want, they
That
want
might be it.
to do that, and then maybe a couple other small
Exactly.
classes, and then, yeah. The budget would be smaller, be easier to manage, and, but it would be what people wanted,
Exactly. Right.
yeah.
What do you need to see from Joe? Because you're going to actually have to approve this if you want to do this. What would you like for the board to be able to move forward with this? Because obviously this is for this coming fall, but there's enough other things going on right now that we should be moving fairly quickly. So I'm just asking what you would like to have as a board for a proposal, other than what Joe has. If this is good enough, then we can take this to the board to vote on that.
Joe, how long would it take you to put some kind of a proposal together for the classes that you want to offer? Since you're going to scale down dramatically from what's there, how long would it take you to give us?
When does the board meet in April? You know, the date of it's late in April. I think I could have a proposal for the activities committee in April.
We don't have.
Oh, you don't have another
We
day?
have one in May.
Okay.
But I don't know whether I'm not sure they need to hear a presentation, they just need to see a breakdown, unless I'm hearing things incorrectly.
What I would propose over the next couple of weeks is for me to develop actual courses, to get in touch with instructors and lay out a skeleton schedule that might be of interest. And some tactics to get the word out, some marketing tactics.
In the past, it was a mailer, right? Was it? I know, you know, at one time.
It had been
it had
included
been.
in our print newsletter.
Yeah,
At one point, they switched to a self-mailer that they were mailing out, and then more recently went to an online package that there was no printing involved.
did the online reach enough, do you think?
That's what I
That's
don't
the
think so.
question, you know,
Right.
because you're really limiting yourself then. I mean, obviously, if you put it in our newsletter, you know, you're limited to those who have students.
Well, it went out through our print newsletter, which was the entire district. So that was their primary means of getting the word out.
Oh, I meant our online
Yeah,
newsletter.
our online
Yeah.
newsletters, yes,
Just
strictly.
if you're registered, you
Right.
get that as,
But there are other ways to get the word out beyond using US mail.
I think it's a good thing because, you know, from my experience up at the tech school, yeah, you know, obviously there's interest in it, and part of the discussion up there was not only monetary, but with their renovations right now, it seemed like it was a challenge to continue that. So I know up there, when this came up to the decision to discontinue it, it was also noted that it would be conversation further down the road that to bring it back, but they're looking to go in a different direction, I think, at some point with what their
From what I
adult
understand,
evenings.
they would like to do more workforce development.
Yeah, where that's not what this is more recreational.
Exactly.
So I think that it's a good thing, you know, to be able to still offer this to the community. I mean, we've heard enough feedback from people with the desire to keep it, so.
Yeah, so in April, you could give us a potential course offering?
Exactly.
Okay, and then is exactly how you propose to advertise it. I would like to see the past enrollments, just to see, you know, so we have a baseline
Sure.
and know which courses were successful or popular and which ones weren't. And then, I guess, to see, okay, well, then we can judge if it's successful next year. I guess I also have a question about insurance, but I guess it's just handled the same, it would be handled the same way.
If they're, as long as the courses are here, yeah, then we're covered with the insurance, and we'll have to find out about the courses that we offer. I didn't know we had one that was on site, so we'll have to, that's a question we need to ask. I guess if it's under our umbrella, it would be covered. I guess I would, caution tells me that, try to keep them here.
I would opt for that too, just for the safety. And it wasn't just limited to the high school either. We had courses at Penn Central, Penn South, Guth, Siler was another one.
Yeah. West Rocco, I think, had one of the men's basketball.
Rock Hill Mennonite,
Yeah.
they did some courses there, water walking at Rock Hill Mennonite.
Okay, so if you could get us, a more detailed
Yes.
proposal in April, then we can vote on it at the April meeting.
You can vote on the April meeting, and if you still need more information, it'll be on the agenda for the May Activities Committee meeting, and we'll just try to get those questions answered. I don't think anybody's saying no, you just want to make sure that you have enough information going forward, so.
Yeah.
April's fine, and if not, then we'll review it, get your questions answered, and put it back, and you can vote on it again in May.
Right, because nobody's going to be signing up in May,
No.
because it's going to start in
Right,
September.
it would start in mid to late September.
Right.
Yeah, but my concern isn't about that. My concern is we're still raising funds. Joe's very active in that. We have all the calendar stuff that we start getting ready for the 2015-16 school year. Joe's very involved with that. So I'm looking at doing it right and making sure there's enough time to space out to do all those things correctly. That's all, that's my only concern.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the proposal. So, before we end the meeting, is there any public comments?
Thank you again. You mentioned a price of $70 a course per night. I didn't understand. Could you clarify that?
I was projecting a revenue of $70 per night per course. So if, for example, if 7 people pay $10 a night to be in a particular course, that would be $70.
Oh, okay.
Now, it could be different. There's some that are cheaper and some that are more.
That's a
But that was
gross.
a good average.
Yeah, gross number, okay.
Right.
And I assume there'll be some impact on the electrical use in the school, the janitorial use as well?
I don't know that for sure. I would defer to Dr. Bavard on that.
All I can say is that in the past, when we ran these programs, it was not enough where they had to overstaff or put extra staff in because it operates right when our evening people are cleaning and they just don't go to those classes. The normal classrooms that they would clean for teachers, they do them after the adult evening school has gone through there. So it really hasn't had an impact in the past, and that's really a poor decision, but we have not done that.
So that's a fixed time then for each course that's held within the schools?
Yeah.
Because you know the janitorial forces.
During the time when we have custodians, if that's correct.
Right. I hope that in the April meeting, you'll have a model of your finances. Thank you.
Hi, Celeste Ferrer, Percy Borough. Coming back to the cheerleading, since I'm a former parent of a child from cheerleading, yes, they went to both events this past year. The one for the camp, that's very important for the girls. They went for the first time this past August. Did a wonderful job from all the teams that were there. I believe one of the teams actually were top of all of them that were there when they had their competitions being there. For the championships in Florida past February, our green team, which is the top team, came in 10th. The white team came in 9th, and the JV team came in 5th place. And you have to realize there's hundreds of teams that show up for this. And they had to meet a criteria to get there, to get the bid to get there in the first place. And our girls, it was fantastic. They made it to the finals, and it's the top 16 in the finals. It was a 2-day event. And so I just wanted you to know that they did a fantastic job.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, she did share with them the results, and I guess, and also some of the results from districts, right? That they were the Suburban One League champion for the past 4 years, and they were the 2015 District 1 champion, and that they placed in the top 5 of the PIAA state championship in the last 3
Yes.
years. Yeah, so they've been doing
They've been doing a
fabulous.
fantastic job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just, and she did have it about their placement at the national, so it's really, really fantastic. And I believe Joe has, that's been in the newsletter, hasn't it? Yeah, it's been in the newsletter, so that's great. I just wanted to hear from her too, just the trip overall and, you know, how it went traveling with the kids and.
For what I heard, it went fine with the people I went, because as I say, I'm a former parent now. My daughter had to give up in November for an injury to her shoulder,
Okay.
so she couldn't finish out the year
Oh,
with
that's a
them.
shame.
But they did a fantastic job.
Yeah, they did a great
Yeah.
job. Thank you for sharing that. Any other comments? Okay, then we will adjourn the activities meeting, and which one is next? Policy. Okay, so I'll turn it over to Mr. Deming.
Thank you. I just might want to mention, I didn't want to break into the other meeting, but Joe Ferry's position on a local newspaper might help in the publicities. He's been, I've read a couple of his articles, and he's a pretty good writer. Okay, this is the March policy review. It's ought to be pretty straightforward. We've got a number of them that really, item B, that just is essentially a change of words in the policy. And so we'll start out with policy number 100. Bruce?
This is, 100 is not been a change. There's been looked at by the PSBA, and the solicitor has now reviewed these. And for item B, like Mr. Deming said, they basically, most of them have a word change, you know, because we have to change from strategic to comprehensive. So that's, but now at this point, we have to get them all out there so that you can actually vote on each one. So they're all changed only because of the comprehensive plan.
Are there any questions on that?
Actually, in policy 100, there are some things in bold, and then the red I see is crossed out, but then there's also blue. So is the bold a change, or is that just how it's showing up on the computer?
No, it's a change, because the first time it came from PSBA, and then before I bring it back for the second reading, I now have the solicitor, you know, get the changes, because there have been times where once the boards had their policy review meeting for the second reading, then it goes to solicitor and it changes from there. So you have PSBA's changes in there, comprehensive planning, let me pull it up here. I think it's on the second page,
Right,
correct?
so who did the bold and who did the blue?
The bold is from PSBA. Blue at the end. There's the strikeout in red at the bottom of page 2 of 3. Our solicitor removed that because we do not offer pre-kindergarten education. So that was part of the PSBA's template, which we saw the first time. And then in the last, the change is semi-annual, because that is the practice that the board has from the superintendent to semi-annually give you a report. So the policies are supposed to reflect our current practice. So she gives a report in the start of the end of the school year and halfway through the school year. So that actually reflects, you know, Pennridge School District practice. PSBA would not know that.
Does that answer your question?
And you know, also struck out in red is a note. You don't need a note from PSBA on your policy, so Rob struck that out too.
Right, and so, and this is all dictated by the state, how we need to do this?
Correct.
Yeah.
With the exception of the reports. You could have a report, you know, once a week if you want, but right now I know that Dr. Radigan gives them twice a year. So unless, you know, the board changes that with the superintendent and you want it 3 times a year or once a year, right now we're going with what is the practice that the superintendent reports to the board.
Okay, thanks.
Let's move on to number B, and let's take that as a group, if you don't mind. Items 1 through 12, Roman numerals.
Okay, these are just the one-word changes, and you should have seen them. That's the only thing. that
And are
really
there
has
any
changed.
questions on that? If not, it'll be coming up at our next board meeting. Let's go to policy number 317, Bruce.
If I can cover 317, 317.1, and policy 806, because they have been looked at by the PSBA. There were some changes by our solicitor. These are all three laws that are based on the new laws passed by the state last year and into effect as of December 31st of 2014. So these are, it talks about, there are the clearances, educator misconduct, child abuse, they pass the trash, where we have requirements for background checks. So you have a lot of these things in here. Our solicitor has now looked at them so that they are ready to go to the board for second reading, final approval at this month's meeting if the board so chooses.
Are there any other questions?
I just noticed that the one says revised by PSBA.
Yeah, I saw that. I have to go double check that. 'Cause I thought
If we
Rob,
took it off the one, then.
yeah, it should be for all of them. Unless Rob, sometimes if he doesn't have a change, I'll make sure that that's the case, because some of them he does not have a change on, but I want to make sure that that's the case. So on policy number 806, I'll make sure that he has looked at it. If he has any changes, I'll make sure I'll launch it out to you, or you can wait. But it's pretty much the new state law.
Yeah, and the other one says new by PSBA.
Correct, because it was not a rewrite, it was a brand new, and that's why it's 317.1.
We'll bring that up at the board. We'll bring that up at the board meeting, and let's move ahead then to item number 2, which and there is some there will be some discussion about this, I believe, Bruce, on policy number 916, number 915, and number 916.
Correct. This has gone through several iterations about what we're looking at. So on 915, at this point, let me pull that up. What we're recommending is the only change to this policy is going to be in page 2, where actually each potential booster group and or parent organization must submit a recognition request to the superintendent or designee, not the business administrator, because usually those things will come through the activities committee, not the business thing. So that it's really for the board to approve. So we're just sent through the right vehicle. And on the second page where we talked about reporting, we've actually gone back to the original language and we're not making any changes. We are encouraging groups to get a CPA, but we're not actually going to mandate that kind of expense on them. We're just going to encourage it. If there are concerns we have based on parents that are members of those clubs that bring them to us like they have in the past, we actually try to meet with them and say, you have concerns from your own group members, please go back and try to do something so you can satisfy them. No group has ever gotten to the point where we've had to bring them to you to recommend that you actually do not recognize them. Not recognizing them is a major blow to their ability to be able to hold meetings in our school, have access to our students, to be able to do fundraising, and they all understand that. So we're not going to require that, and if there are changes down the road based on any changes in state law, we'll make them at that point. But that's the only change we're recommending at this point for policy 915.
Is there any consideration for the amount of money that these clubs have in their treasury, that above a certain level, that there be some kind of CPA oversight to make sure that all the issues that we have been involved in the past with large amounts of money that there's some question about, it seems like it would be in our best interest to pick some kind of level that says, look, above that, we don't want to make you spend money, but it's necessary because of the overall fiduciary responsibility of the club and the board. We don't have a fiduciary responsibility of the board, but.
That's something, that's a good point, because we have talked, and it's been some PTOs and parent organizations have actually raised tremendous amounts of money, but some of it's because they're saving them for a playground project. Raising money and not spending it, is not something that we recommend, because if you raise it while your child's in the middle school, and by the time it gets spent, your child's already in the high school, that's not the purpose of that group. So I think it's probably reasonable for us, if you're okay with this, actually then put together some procedures to be able to cover that. But we'll bring them back to the board then about guidelines about money and questions that we bring that we're going to have meetings with them. So that's not a bad idea. So if they can say that we have $30,000, but we're saving it for playground improvement, I know that Grass Elementary School has done that, Siler just came to you recently to do that. But setting on big amounts of money is not something that we really encourage, unless there's actually a specific project that they're, working toward.
A lot of the groups, it's money in, money out, like you're saying, unless they're